And good morning. It is a Monday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. That would make me Glenn. That would make him Griffin. And that would make you, Dale. Jorge. Rebecca.
Are we for sure?
I mean, I don't know. I just figured I'd start naming some people and see if there's one out there who's like, hey, that's me. He's talking about me. I'm Jorge. Or today you could be Jorge. All right, so hi, it's Glenn Clark Radio, and the Ravens won a game. We had a juicy adult content alert post-game show last night. If you missed it, Pressbox's Project Gameday, which is brought to you by the Maryland 5-Star, the Green Turtle Sportsbooks in Towson and Canton, HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, and Easy Pass. We do it after every game all season long. Myself, Rita, Femi, Stecca, KZ, the whole crew. And yeah, it got a little spicy. Got a little languagey. The Ravens won. The Ravens won the game.
Glenn was pissed, is what he's trying to say.
PressBoxOnline.com/gameday. After every game day all season long, come join us for Project Gameday. Look, this is where we are, all right? If what you want to do, and this was, Reed and I actually ended up going back and forth a little bit yet. For a lot of people, the moment they've decided that something is the problem, then it's just the problem. That's just the way that it goes. You get to a place where you solve for that. Once I've decided this is the issue, then I see everything through that prism. Whether it's the offense coordinator, whether it's the manager of the baseball team, whether it's John, whatever it is, if you think that there's the wrong quarterback, whatever it is, once you've made that decision, there is a tendency to view things through that prism and to say, this is what happened. This is whose fault it is. Now, again, the Ravens won yesterday. They won the football game. Now, we all watched it. We are all dealing with the same thing. But they won. And that matters not singularly, but overwhelmingly. Because the rest of the story matters too. But what tells the rest of the story? We used to do a segment on this show called 5 Plays That Told the Story, right? And it was the way that it would go is that you would just say, hey, separate everything else. What 5 plays best explain why the Ravens either won or lost the football game? And you tend to find that most football games, not all, but most, are decided within those margins, that 5 plays alone could tell the story. Now, the Ravens won, so it actually would have been a more difficult exercise to have done, because you would remember, obviously, the throw to Zay at the end of the game and maybe like Lamar converting to pick up the final first down.
Yeah.
But like outside of that, it might take you a minute to go back and remember what the plays were that told the story of the game.
Arm for sure.
It was fun. I don't know that it would be the one that told the story, but it's a conversation for a different day. If the Ravens had lost, it wouldn't have been difficult to figure out what the plays were, because the first 2 would have been obvious. The first 2 were the 2 that kind of flipped the game. The missed field goal, the failure to recover an onside kick. Now, this is where it gets murky, because, again, if you have decided that the Ravens can't win another Super Bowl under John Harbaugh, if that's your strongly held opinion, then everything you see, you now see through the prism of, well, this just keeps happening. They keep blowing big leads under John Harbaugh. And it's one of those, well, yeah, I guess that's true. They nearly blew another big lead under John Harbaugh yesterday. In a way, you're right. At the same time, you're going to struggle to sell me on what happened yesterday that's uniquely John Harbaugh's fault. And that's what I worry about when we end up getting into this place where we just decide, in our minds, this is what's wrong. Okay, well, how was what was wrong yesterday? Well, I thought John Harbaugh was supposed to be a special teams. John Harbaugh hasn't been the special teams coach in 16 years, 17 years. 17 years. Even if, do you want to fire the special teams coach because Zay Flowers didn't cover up a football? Do you think that's coaching? Like, is that what you think happened yesterday? Is that they were coached inappropriately? That Zay Flowers didn't know to fall on the football? I mean, if you do, you do. Is coaching the Justin Tucker problem? This is the issue. Sometimes goofy things happen in football games. Sometimes goofy things happen in all sports. Yesterday, some goofy things happened, and then compounded by penalties. And if you want to blame that on coaching, we can talk about it. The problem is, I also happen to know what your thoughts are on some of those penalties that were called. It's one of those things where you want to walk both lines. You both want to be mad at the coach about the penalties, but also be mad at the officials for calling the penalties. And those two things don't jive. If you don't think it was a penalty, what are you mad about? That was bogus. That was BS, and it's your fault, coach. Again, those two things just don't work. I do think the Ravens have a problem related to discipline. But I also think that they have been on the wrong end of some really debatable calls, if not just flat out bad. They were legitimately robbed of 2 points yesterday. Like, that doesn't happen. You're not supposed to have actual points taken off the board. It's one thing to say, like, hey, we think the Falcons got hosed on that play in the end zone that was obviously pass interference last night, but that doesn't actually put the points on the board. That gives them the ball at the 1 yard line. The Ravens got actually hosed out of 2 points. 2 points should have been on the board that weren't by nothing other than nincompoopery. And that's what makes this all so difficult. Well, whose fault is that? Is that John Harbaugh's fault? You could tell me that. And the funny thing is, I am closer and closer to where you guys are with my doubt about how this plays out with John Harbaugh. I think I am coming more towards the area where if it doesn't work out this year, that you're reaching a point in which there might need to be change for change's sake. I'm not there. I'm not. But depending on how the season goes, and as I said a week ago, if it was more of his mistakes, I would beat up John Harbaugh in his heartbeat if yesterday they were pissing away timeouts, if they were doing asinine things.
They even took a delay game like it.
Correct. Like a correct coaching decision. Don't waste a timeout. Just, if you're not going to go for it, back up the 5 yards. Yesterday the topic came up about, like, well, they got too conservative. I'm like, when did they have the ball to get conservative? What part am I missing? And the best argument that anybody could make for me all day was the play before the missed field goal. That was 3rd and 5, and they called a run play. And that felt conservative. Like you just had the points in your pocket, and you just... Now, if that was the case, I would argue that would be a good place for it to be the case. Because, again, those 3 points were the difference in a 3-possession or 4-possession game in the fourth quarter, which is why we know how significant the missed field goal was. Not all missed field goals are made equal. A 46-yard field goal that's the difference in a 3-possession game or a 4-possession game, which with that much time on the clock feels like the demarcation, right? Like you cannot, with 10 minutes left in a game, get back into a 4-possession game. It would take a conspiracy beyond just one onside kick. So if that was the thought process, then I would argue if there was ever a time to have that thought process, you could argue that's the time to have the thought process. But I get it. You would also argue, hey, but Justin Tucker's been missing some kicks recently. Maybe you don't count on that. I also don't know that it was the actual thought process versus, as I said, the Ravens were gashing the Cowboys on the ground. That was how they were in the position. It would have been asinine for the Ravens to suddenly go from, hey, we're gashing this team on the ground and we're up big in this. Let's start airing it out. Let's start throwing on first down. That would be insanity. The thing that they were having success with was the thing that they chose to do in that spot. Now, again, we're debating about one play. One play does not an argument make. So even if I said, yeah, maybe that play was a little conservative, I couldn't create an argument that part of what happened yesterday is the Ravens got conservative. Couldn't do it. Because I would have one play of evidence. One. It just doesn't work for me. I can't get there. What I can give you is that the Ravens found a lot of success on the ground and were committed to staying on the ground. Which, based on the success they had, made a lot of sense. And then after they missed a field goal that they absolutely should not have missed, that should have been 3 free points, a 46-yard indoor field goal, they didn't get the ball back to have a chance to go conservative. It wasn't an option. Until all of a sudden, you look up, and what should have been a 4-possession game, it's now wildly different. Next time you see the ball, they're back within 10 points. Now, you want to say there were some defensive issues after that point? Sure. Beyond just the penalties? Like, for as well as Nate Wiggins played early in the game, he got picked on after that point. And we could debate the wisdom of Nate Wiggins one-on-one versus CeeDee Lamb.
And it has, in fairness to him, anyone one-on-one.
100%. Although, for what it's worth, earlier in the game, Marlon did a pretty decent job one-on-one a couple times against CeeDee Lamb. Want to give credit where credit's due. I don't have the answers here to say this specifically is how I could fault the coaches for yesterday. The players failed in some pretty big spots. And then it was worsened by some really questionable officiating. But ultimately, when they needed to win the game, they won the game. And to the point, the one thing that I can't absolve, because Lamar Jackson, for the most part, was really good yesterday. But on third down, they drew up a play that had Mark Andrews wide open, and he missed the throw. Plain and simple. We got into that on the postgame last night. And, Andrew's like, well, I don't understand why Derrick Henry's not on the field there. Like, fine, you can ask that question, but the answer is they had a play that worked. This thing that we do when you don't get the result and we debate the thought process, the play they called was perfect. The play was not executed perfectly. The throw wasn't made. It was there. It wasn't he didn't have time to. The throw was there. The throw wasn't made. And that, again, allowed the Cowboys to get the ball back and get back into the game. That plus the fact that the Ravens weren't willing to try a 57-yard indoor field goal, which is a huge part of the story at the moment. And what I'm writing about today at PressBoxOnline.com. It's tough. It's tough because I've just spent the first 15 minutes like doing this after they won. They won. That's a really good result. They went on the road and they beat a team that we think is going to be good, although, they certainly have issues. They righted the ship. Those are good things. Is this thing that we can't define, this thing where they blow leads, where not every game is made equal, where everything is a different story, where they don't handle adversity well, that thing still exists. But they didn't blow the lead yesterday. Like, we're trying to do the bit where we're adding this to the end. You have to lose for that to be relevant. And they didn't. So I don't know how we talk about that. I get that we're sensitive to it because we see that statistic constantly. We're reminded of how many blown leads the Ravens have had in the fourth quarter. So every time it comes up, we think about it. And with the Ravens nearly blowing a lead yesterday, we want to throw that onto the pile of evidence there's a problem. This is always a very difficult conversation to have. Would you rather be the team that's blown a number of fourth quarter leads or the team that never has a lead in the fourth quarter to blow it? Like, I get that you don't want to be that team. But to suggest it's the singular identity that they always do it ignores the sheer number of games that they've won. Like, we just create a new reality where the story, the identity of the Ravens is that they always blow the lead in the fourth quarter. How many games did they win last year?
They won a lot. 14, I believe.
They were the
playoff game.
Remind me, they were the number one seed in the AFC, correct?
That is correct.
So is the identity of the Ravens that they always blow the lead in the fourth quarter? Or do we cherry pick things to back up what we want to feel about something? We want the story to be that they always blow fourth quarter leads. Because, again, if that's the case, then it can back up the fact that we don't think the guy should be the coach anymore. It's a weird vibe. Now, thankfully, I don't think it permeates into the organization. I think they're separated from it. Wholly? I don't know about wholly. But I think for the most part, they're able to dismiss that and just go play football. And ultimately, when they needed to make the plays, they needed to end the game yesterday. They did. They made the plays necessary, including one of the guys that conspired to put them in that situation, Zay Flowers. That matters. It does. It matters that they made the plays and that they won the football game. It doesn't absolve them of everything that happened that got them there. But defaulting to, this is John Harbaugh's fault, instead of what yesterday uniquely was the truth, this was a bizarre set of circumstances. And you can't feel that in the moment, because in the moment all you're feeling is, oh my God, this is happening. But the reality separated from it is, it was a 46-yard missed indoor field goal, a failure to recover an onside kick that was right to you, not even one of those, like, took a wicked hop, like, it was right there, and then a couple of really questionable penalties that aided the Cowboys in moving the ball down the field. Now, again, that doesn't mean that they didn't have their own failures in the process. But that's a bizarre set of circumstances. That, to me, is a John Harbaugh is the coach and weird things happened, not weird things happened because John Harbaugh is the coach. Like, two things can be true, but there's, to me, no cause and effect to that. Ravens won the game. They got to keep this thing going. They've got to get even better. The offensive line was better, but also was not asked to seriously pass protect much yesterday. Not a lot of pass plays that took a while to develop. Better game plan. And for that, again, you'd probably praise the coaching staff for a better game plan. it's not always going to go your way. You're not going to gash every team. The Bills' run defense isn't as bad as the Cowboys' run defense is. Next Sunday night, you're not likely to just be able to dictate and impose your will. Clearly, yesterday is a story of more what the Ravens want to be. They Derrick Henry first, maybe not first, a Derrick Henry-led offense and the opportunity to wear an opponent down with Derrick Henry. Yes, there's irony in the fact that they didn't ice the game away until the end, but because of bizarre circumstances. Will they be able to be that every week? I don't know. The offensive line has to keep getting better. And I'm still apprehensive about whether or not this is the unique group of five, despite how well certain guys and how much better certain guys played yesterday. The Ravens won. I don't know if you heard. The Ravens won. Hey, this Thursday night, come hang out with us inside Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel. Myself, Joe Serpico, we're going to be there. I'm going to have great giveaways for you leading up to and during the first half of the Dallas-New York game. And then you're going to be able to go up to Joe Serpico, Pressbox Fantasy Football Analyst, just hand him your phone and say, fix my fantasy team, which, by the way, I'm going to need him to help in that department for me. Just walk right up. Say, tell me what to do. Who do I pick up? Who do I start? Who do I sit this week? Can you look at some of the other teams? Tell me a trade that I could maybe propose in my league to improve my team. Joe's going to take care of that for you. This Thursday night, we'll be hanging out starting at 7 for fantasy football consultations inside Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel. Come hang out with us. Watch the game. Great giveaways throughout the night. We're going to have a lot of fun. Can't wait to see you there on Thursday. And Griffin, remind everybody about how they could get some free money.
That is correct, because every time that Baltimore or Washington's football teams play a home game and they score a touchdown, you Live Rewards members will get a free $7 in slot play. That is during home games for Baltimore or Washington, and when they score a touchdown during those home games, Live Rewards members will be getting free $7 in slot play. You have to have your Live Rewards card inserted correctly into the machine and be actively playing to get the prize, and this is valid for slot play only, and it is at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. You please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Super Bowl 35 champion man that you see on WJZ 13. He is Qadry Ismail, and he's with us this morning here on GCR. What's going on, brother? How are you?
Man.
You breathing again?
I am doing good.
Yeah.
I can breathe. I'm okay. Life is well. We got a victory.
Yeah, I agree with all those things, right? Qadry, I don't know how to, the part that matters is that they won. But the other part of it matters too, right? And I don't know how to measure the concern that fans have about the fact that the Ravens have a bit of a history of struggling to hold on to leads or handle adversity versus, hey, they won, and if we're really being honest with ourselves, it was kind of a bizarre set of circumstances that allowed the Cowboys back into the game yesterday.
Ooh, that's a mouthful.
Yeah.
I think the one thing we look at with this is the previous history of the Ravens, where they've given up those leads in the fourth quarter with a 7+ lead. It wasn't like it's it's a 1-point game or it's just a field goal away. It's been 7+, and there's been sometimes those double-digit leads, it just evaporates, and you wind up on the losing end of it all. And I think what we saw with the Dallas game was the same thing. So it does leave you with a little bit of concern and doubt, because the Dallas Cowboys are not that good of a football team, but the Buffalo Bills will be. The Bengals, as much as they are somewhat of an enigma, they still are a division opponent that will play you tough, and they are talented as well. And so the upcoming schedule is what I look at and say, okay, is this team learning from their issues and growing from it, or is it going to be more of the same that we've seen in previous years?
So I guess I'll ask you the question that you just posed. Are you nervous? Are you concerned that they're not learning from it?
I am not necessarily pushing the panic button.
Okay.
However, I do see where if you don't get a handle on it, the it being from the coaching to the recovery of the coaching, to the player responsibility and accountability, then it will be more of the same. But if you're looking at yourself in the mirror truly and changing the mindset, then I think you'll have an opportunity before you to right the ship.
Qadry, let me ask about two specific areas of this football team that were concerns coming in yesterday. And I think the biggest one, obviously, was the offensive line. The run game was dominant. I think the question that we have is how much of that was about the offensive line getting righting the ship, definitively proving that this is the correct group of guys, versus it just maybe being the right opponent that has been dreadful against the run, and they called the correct game plan for that team, but it doesn't definitively answer that we know that this group of 5 is the group that's going to be able to get it done moving forward.
Well, I will say this. I know that we won't know until we see them go up against other teams. I do know that, yes, this team struggled. The Dallas Cowboys, they struggled up front with stopping the run. You look at what the Saints did against the Philadelphia Eagles, who have a way more formidable defensive front, and they pretty much held them to 14 points. And so I think when you look at the bigger picture, you would be a fool to think that, all is well with the world.
Right.
Let's just go back to doing what we do. I think we need to stay vigilant and just make sure that you don't take your foot off the intensity of practice, preparation, communication within the offensive line unit.
I think all of that is correct, by the way, even committing to. It's funny because John Harbaugh said after the game, Qadry, that like the plan was actually to rotate, but it was just working so well that they didn't go to that plan. And while I'm not necessarily like the biggest fan of rotation, I think my answer would be, okay, that's good for that game because it was working, but I don't know that suddenly means that you go into this week and say, well, we can't revisit that at all. It's definitive. I feel like it's got to be the same thought process going into next week.
Yeah, it is. You don't want to be a guy looking over your shoulder.
That's fair.
So, one series shouldn't make, but I think if there is a lapse that has messed up a few drives, then I think it's time to look at, making that rotation something more permanent.
He is Qadry Ismail. He is with us here on GCR. Qadry, the other area that was a concern coming in was the pass defense, which was statistically the worst in the NFL through the first 2 weeks. And I thought a lot of that was an anomaly. I think the question, and obviously early on in the game, the Ravens tremendous with the pass defense and the job that they did to not allow CeeDee Lamb to be a huge factor. As the game went on, seeing Nate Wiggins end up one-on-one with CeeDee Lamb, I know the Ravens historically have not game planned uniquely to a player, but have said, we're going to line up one corner here and one corner on this side of the field. That's the way that we do things. But given what we saw against Davante Adams, given what it looked like in the second half, at some point, should it become more matchup specific to say, hey, we don't want to end up leaving. Whatever we do, we can't have it be Nate Wiggins one-on-one with CeeDee Lamb. That's not good math for us.
Yeah, I don't know why that occurred. I could see a little bit at times to change it up. But, yeah, in those critical moments towards the end of the game, your football intelligence would say, look, all right, what's their best, quickest way to get back into this game? CeeDee Lamb. Okay, let's take him away. How do we take him away? I know the Ravens, they do more man-to-man press than any other team, but it also helps if you can have a safety over top. With the safety over top, you're also giving up something else, which is what you're saying. Look, we're willing to let somebody else beat us. We're not willing to let CeeDee Lamb beat us.
Right.
I think, unfortunately, it came to a place or space where you're covering CD, but you're getting other guys involved in whether it be the middle of the football field, the tight ends, you saw, Cooks, you saw Turpin, you saw different players getting involved.
Yeah, the fullback that none of us had ever heard of. We never,
take away a guy.
I still don't know what that fullback's name is. I still don't know, and he was eating them alive yesterday.
Bro, you and I are both. I was like, who is this guy?
Right.
It was like he became like the second coming of Pal Juszczyk.
Right. It was wild, man. Hunter Lepke was his name. Again, I had never heard of that dude. And today, if he was walking in this room, I would have no idea who that cat was. But he made some big plays, and credit to him for it. Qadry, can you walk me through what a day like yesterday is like? This thing where people, fans feel like, yeah, it's a win, but does it feel like that inside an organization? Like, you get back together on Monday, is it celebratory? Is it, yeah, we don't get to celebrate that one? Like, what does that look like for a team after you win a game like that?
I mean, I think a good football team, they don't sit there and look at the celebration as, happy, happy, joy, joy. I think what they look at is like, all right, cool, we got that one out the way, but now we're moving on to Buffalo and recognizing Buffalo is going to be a much more formidable opponent.
I think there's no doubt about that. And of course, that's coming up on Sunday night. If I could, one more, just what we saw yesterday with that being sort of what you envision of a Derrick Henry game. Like, you envision a team that has Derrick Henry should be able to just pound him and make guys make business decisions and think about whether or not they really want to do this for 4 quarters. Is that, I'll go back to the same thing, is that, do you think, what they want to be moving forward? Like, that's what they want the identity of the team to be moving forward? Or, again, just the nature of the game and the opponent?
So I was thinking a lot about it, and one of the things that was the undoing of the Ravens in the Greg Roman era was Greg Roman was so bullish on this is what we're going to do, and we had no counterpunch. I'm hoping that Todd Monken is saying, okay, we know we can spread teams out, and we know that we have this wide open offense, but we can also counterpunch based upon our matchup versus the other team's matchup by getting into 2 backs, 2 tight ends, 1 receiver type formation and having a go with it. I think if that's the case, then sure, you can win games like this because you're going to win them based upon your matchups. And then you can bring in multiple personnel packages and change it up in game. I think that's the thing. If you are capable of changing it up in game, finishing drives, being really smart about your play calling and your execution, then you're setting yourself up for success. I don't think in other words, I don't think it's just a one-off.
Yeah.
Hey, we ran Derrick Henry, all that, and we're never going to do that again. I think it's a situation where you can do it, and that's a good thing.
No, but I think the point is like you're not hell-bent. It doesn't have to be like this every time. We believe we can win games in multiple ways, which I think ideally is what you want to be to try to win a Super Bowl as a football team.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I am feeling good about my team, my matchups. Yeah. We're going up against all these, you name them teams. And in that process, I feel like if they try to take this away from us, we're going to do this to them, whatever that is. And so, against the Cowboys, the Cowboys' defensive front was a weakness. That offensive line needed some confidence. Derrick Henry was just the right dose of medicine to just do what needed to be done to dominate in the running game, and Todd Monken called it, and it just kept on being successful. So ultimately, the next time out, if you're in a shootout, hopefully you're not going to just rely upon, a a grouping that is run dominant without necessarily taking shots down the football field.
Qadry, remind everybody about missile training.
Yeah, man. Check out missiletraining.com for all your sports and human movement performance. And it doesn't matter if you're 6 all the way up to 85 years old. I got all the movement that you need to help you be a better version of you.
At I am Qadry Ismail as well on Twitter is how you follow him. Of course, WJZ13 on Sundays. Qadry, always appreciate you, brother. Thanks for hopping on this morning. Let's talk again real soon, all right?
Yes, indeed. Appreciate you, Bo.
Thanks, buddy. Qadry Ismail with us here on GCR. We'll keep the conversation going with our buddy Femi Ayanbadejo coming back in on the other side. And coming up a little bit later on today, Stan, Ross, and Luke talking baseball, which I got nothing else. Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. What am I supposed to say here? It sucks, man. It's just what it is. 5 o'clock, Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. They'll be talking with you as the Orioles have 1 week left in the regular season. Got some pieces back. 1 week left in the regular season. Can they hold on to host a wild card series next week? They'll be talking about it today. Femi next. GCR.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. Learn more at DriveEasyMD.com.
PressBox's Project Gameday is the place to be after every game this season. Join Glenn Clark, Rita Hubbard, Super Bowl 35 champion Femi Ayanbadejo, and our cast of regulars as they break down what happened, why it mattered, and what it means moving forward. You can watch the show at PressBoxOnline.com/Gameday or PressBox's Facebook and YouTube pages. Project Gameday is brought to you by the Green Turtle Sportsbook in Towson and Canton, Easy Pass, and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org. So join us for Project Gameday after every game day this football season at PressBoxOnline.com/Gameday.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their legendary fat, delicious, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. It's crab season, so sit back and crack some crabs while watching the Birds pursue another divisional title on Costas's 15 TVs. On Monday night, the Costas Inn offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30. So head on down to the Costas Inn today at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at CostasInn.com.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Brace yourselves for an unparalleled in-person betting experience at the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbook and Bars in Canton and Towson. Experience the thrill of live betting with Baltimore's only state-of-the-art Vegas viewing TV experience. Choose between our on-site tellers or the convenience of our self-bet kiosks to place your bets. Gather your betting buddies and head over to the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks today. Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks in Towson and Canton. The ultimate destination for game day excitement, great food, and live in-person betting. Must be 21. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Go to mdgamblinghelp.org.
Coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
All right, just a quick reminder, there will not be an Arthur Millette show this week. We made the executive decision at the beginning of the year that we wanted to maybe kind of push that back with Arthur starting the year on IR. We just thought that maybe buying that extra week, we could do some more shows after he's back out on the field. So no show tomorrow night. Instead, the next show will be next Tuesday night. Next Tuesday night, October 1st. We'll be at the Green Turtle Sportsbook in Towson. Come join us for the Arthur Millette Show. You can find out more about the show and where it's going to be all season long by going to PressBoxOnline.com/Millette. That's the Arthur Millette Show, which is brought to you by Easy Pass and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org. We will be at the Green Turtle in Towson next Tuesday night, October 1st. Hope that you will come join us for the next Arthur Millette show. Didn't have a chance early on, but yeah, there was one man of the match this weekend. One. 3 games, 1 win. Recurring problem. Corbin Burns threw 7 shutout innings on Friday night.
Is he the leader?
He tied Grayson Rodriguez for the season high.
Oh, 7th.
7th man of the match. So there's that. They got that going for him. It's nice.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the weekend happened.
Coulomb just for coming back,
No, it couldn't have been anybody else on Friday night. It would have been great to have had a man of the match on Saturday.
Yeah.
That would have been fun.
Well.
That would have been a neat thing to do. I would have been in favor of that, but yeah, that didn't happen.
Just
I don't know, man. I don't know. Look, at least we don't have to stress out about these games this week because the division is there's no it's dead.
So the Yankees will be celebrating tomorrow night.
Most likely. That's unfortunate, but that's the reality of the circumstance.
Maybe that'll fire them up.
Maybe, or you can stave it off for a couple of days, but you're not winning the division. That's over.
Well,
it requires you to.
Could.
Mathematically speaking, if they won all 6 of their games, the Yankees lost all 6 of their games. You're right.
Exactly. Thank you. Pirates will be throwing their guys. They'll be throwing Paul Skeens.
Yeah. There's that.
Well, hopefully they throw Paul Skeens.
There's that. The wild card picture going into this series: the Orioles are 4 games up on being the first wild card and hosting the wild card series next week. So that is all but locked up.
Careful.
All but locked up. They still need to win a couple of games to make sure that it's locked up. And in particular, they don't have the tiebreaker against Detroit. I don't know what the tiebreaker situation is with Kansas City. You're going to have to remind me about that.
I think they took 2 or 3 both times. So
okay, so they would have the tiebreaker against Kansas City. They would not have the tiebreaker against Detroit, who, of course, is the much hotter team. And if that were to continue, then who knows, that could become interesting by next week. The other thing is that, like, at the moment, the most likely scenario appears to be that they would be hosting Detroit in the wild card series next week. And how good you feeling about that?
Well, I'm feeling good if that guy's on the mound.
Yeah, that guy, right? That would help.
But
that would help.
I
don't know, man.
Who knows?
I don't know.
You never know.
All right, what do you want to do here? What's you tell me? You want to do a segment and see if we can't find him in a few minutes? You want to
give it 1 more minute?
Okay, I can do that too. Orioles off tonight. They open up a 3-game series against the Yankees tomorrow night in the push to the end of the regular season. I would say the playoffs, but that part of it isn't all that exciting. College football this weekend. What a win for Navy. Unbelievable. Just an awesome win for Navy as they take care of Memphis. That one got hairy, too. That one also involved a recovered onside kick. And Memphis actually had the ball late with a chance to win the game. But thankfully, Rayon Lane had no interest in that being the case. The Gilman alum with a pick 6 to wrap it up for the Mids as they get an absolutely dramatically big win over Memphis at home on Saturday. They're 3-0 on the season, and that's quite the statement about their ability to compete in the AAC. And who knows? Let's not get carried away with ourselves and say anything crazy. But big, big win for Navy. Maryland, not like overwhelming in their performance against Villanova. They did cover, so shame we didn't pick that game. But like you kind of thought the way that it was going that they would run and hide and win by 40, and that wasn't the case. Towson fought against North Dakota State on the road, but ultimately came up short. Here's one for you for the weekend. Stevenson beats Delaware Valley. Now, you probably don't think that's a big deal. Delaware Valley had won 54 consecutive conference games. 54 consecutive conference games before losing at Stevenson 21-20 on Saturday. Yeah.
Wow.
That was a big one. Good for the
Stangs.
A little surprising, too,
Stangs.
because they had lost their first 2 games of the season. It was looking like it was going to be a down year. Then they end this 54-game conference win streak of Delaware Valley. All right. Joining us now here on GCR, you, of course, see him as part of our Pressbox Project Gameday Postgame show each week, and you can try to get some money by being a part of what they're doing at BetYardAI.com. He is Super Bowl champion, Femi Ayanbadejo, and he's back with us now here on the program. What's going on, brother? How are you?
I'm doing good, Glenn. What's going on?
I'm all right, man.
What's happening?
Everything is all right. I don't know. It's funny because, I mentioned there was a little language last night. Like there was some juice. There was some spice to the post-game show last evening. I wanted to give you, because you had mentioned to Rita that, like, hey, I disagree, but I appreciate the passion that you're saying with it, and I got to think about it a little bit more. I wonder, not 24 hours, but more like, 12 hours later, if any of that resonates more with you, if you still sort of feel the way that I felt afterwards, like, you might have a point, but I just don't think this game is a good example of that point.
Yeah, no, I think if we're, and I like to use my microscopic, telescopic, micro, macro lenses, right? We keep using these terms to talk about nuance, right? Because I think nuance matters and context matters when you're having these broader discussions. And Rita's point about the common denominator being Coach Harbaugh and the kind of fourth quarter blown leads over the course of, 4 or 5 years now, and some of the decision making, like I see what she's saying, but I think that sword cuts both ways. And if you look at the last 5 years, the Ravens are one of the winningest franchises over the last 4 or 5 years as well. Numerous playoff appearances, not as much success as we want, but dominant run game, dominant defense, a lot of success, playoff appearances. He's won a Super Bowl going back even further. So her overall critique was that, and I think she meant to say philosophy, not ideology, but I know what she was trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
If philosophically she's trying to say that the NFL game has somehow passed Coach Harbaugh by based on the way he approaches the game, I can see by looking at some of the outcomes that you might make that argument. And if you're a really good debater, you might even be able to win that argument. But I'm a good debater too. And I think that there's a lot of data that I can point to that says that's an overreaction. So without going down a rabbit hole on data and bringing up numerous data points, I think both things can be true, which is, do we like all the decision making, and is the result what we want when it most matters?
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not. But does that mean that the approach and the philosophy are wrong? No, it does not, because a lot of games are won based on micro decisions in high pressure situations. And those outcomes are predicated on not just decision making by the coaching staff, but also by execution of the players. And I would say that execution of the players, to some degree, because I'm a former player and I know alignment assignment technique, like I understand how granular and coached up NFL players are, and I know how meticulous Coach Harbaugh is. So I'm not where Rita is, but like I said, she made a valiant effort and a very cogent case for where she stands. But I'm where you are. Patience, and I think this team is still got everything in front of it. So yesterday's result, there was a lot of good things that came out of that. So I'm definitely more positive than I am now.
So Femi, I was in trying to consider it more broadly. I was searching and revisiting and rewatching last night, looking for any example where maybe the Ravens were too conservative, because it just, that to me, when it was said the first time, I said, what am I missing here? Like, they did what they were doing and they were having success with. And the only thing I could come up with was The play before the missed field goal was a 3rd and 5. And in that spot, they called a run play. And I could see the argument for, hey, even if you're gashing, what is the likelihood of you just a straight handoff picking up 5 yards on 3rd down? And so I could listen to an argument that that particular play might be conservative, but it was also setting up what would have maybe been a kick that would have made it a 4-possession game in the 4th quarter. So if there was ever a moment that would be called for, that would seem like that might be a moment where it's called for. And also, one play to me does not an argument make, right? Like, we can disagree about play calls constantly, one particular play call. It's just hard for me to suggest that there was anything conservative about yesterday's performance versus just doing the thing that was very successful throughout the course of the game.
You know, I agree with you. I think that you're up 28-6. Your field goal kicker has been excellent inside of 50 yards. You're indoors. It was the right call because you're assuming, hey, we're going to get 3 here no matter what. So it's unfortunate that missed field goal then set up the Cowboys to be at midfield basically, and then to get an onside kick, and then to turn a blowout into a nail-biter. It's unfortunate. And obviously numerous things led to that. And as we noted last night, you removed, KZ, I think, noted it, and maybe you did too. There's 3 things that happened. And if you remove one of those 3, the game is a blowout still.
Yep.
It's unfortunate, though, because on the heels of what happened last week, and obviously a tough loss in Kansas City, and then also, you know, memories of double-digit blown 4th quarter leads, which is national news now. Every time the Ravens, you know, seem to have a crack, it comes up now. So it's a story, it's a narrative now, and people are pushing it. So that's how we got to where we got to. But if we just look at the game yesterday, I actually thought Coach Harbaugh made really good decisions during the game yesterday. And I actually thought that other than coming out in empty on 1st down, which I'm not a fan of when you've been really gashing a team running the ball, if I'm nitpicking, that's really the only, and that was aggressive. That wasn't passive or conservative. Coming out and empty on 1st down is aggressive and you don't need to be aggressive in that case. Like, what you're doing is working. You know what I mean? So I think you and I are on the same page on what happened yesterday. It was unfortunate, but I don't think it was necessarily on Coach Harbaugh if that's what people are peddling right now.
How was the week for BetYard AI?
Man, we had an excellent week. Our baseline model. So we have 2 games left tonight. We were 8 wins, 2 pushes and 2 losses, I believe. So I mean, we crushed it this week.
Wow, that's huge.
And it was and that's on the heels of our baseline crushing it last week as well. I think I said we were 10 wins last week. 10 wins last week, and then I think 4 losses and 2 pushes, I believe. Yeah, so the last 2 weeks have been bonkers. The only thing that I'm waiting to really start to elevate and get back to where we were the last 2 years is our high confidence picks.
Okay.
Tonight, if we hit so for those of you, I'm just going to throw it out there. We have the under on the Washington-Cincinnati game as a high confidence pick for tonight.
Okay.
If we hit that, we'll be 60% for the week on our high confidence pick. So we need that to hit.
Well,
but we feel pretty good about that. Yeah, that game showed a lot of signal, and historically, based on the matchup and kind of the player ratings, you know, ELO, QB play, it looks like this is a game that should go under in Cincinnati.
We should probably remind everybody that you gave out a pick last Monday, and that one worked out pretty decently for you.
It did. Yeah, it did. We've been pretty good on our Thursday and Monday night picks. You know, I think going back to our last 4, you know, we hit. So we had some special kind of, they weren't high confidence picks, but they were like high value, what I call baseline picks. Going back to 2 Thursdays ago, it was Buffalo. And then I know we had Atlanta in one. We had the Chargers last week in another. Who was the game on what was the game on Thursday night that we hit?
On Thursday this past week was Patriots Jet.
We had the Jets. We had the Jets covering. Yep. So the Jets hit that too. So I think we're 5 for our last 5 in the kind of picks I've thrown out as high value picks. So yeah, we're doing pretty good right now. Things are good.
That's a pretty decent trend. That's not bad.
Yeah, hey, we've been really successful, over the last 3 years. I know that there's been a lot of volatility with some of the rules changes, some of the rules emphasis. And I'll tell you right now, the refs have cost the Ravens 21 points that they've basically penalties that they've called that are not penalties have led to 21 points for their opponents. Going back to the Kansas City game, the Raiders game, and then last night's game as well. The refs need to really get their stuff together. I really feel like I know it kind of throughout the course of a season, it tends to balance out in regard to the bad calls going against a team and then calls that tend to benefit a team. And no excuses, but I really feel like the refs have done the Ravens no favors on some of the penalties that they've really blown, and knowing full well that they were incorrect as we've gone back and, obviously some things are not replayable, but we have the benefit of that when we're watching a game on TV, and we can see that there was quite a few mistakes that have hurt the Ravens early on in the season.
Well, at least they didn't also literally take 2 points off the board yesterday. At least that didn't happen. That they didn't literally, literally not give them 2 points they should have had in yesterday's game, because that those things happen. It's funsies. Femi, remind everybody. Somebody says, okay, so these are Femi's pick. If they don't know what makes BetYard AI different and what you're doing and how they can take advantage of a great offer, remind everybody about it.
Yeah, so go to betyardai.com, use NFL30. You'll get 30% off of any of our 3 packages. We have a performance guarantee package, and basically says that if we don't hit over 50% of our high confidence picks, you get the next week free. That's one way of making sure that you're guaranteed to win. You pay a little extra premium for that, but it's worth it in the long run. And, our team is all Johns Hopkins centric. My co-founder is a professor at Johns Hopkins right now. He works at the School of Computer Science and Engineering. He has his PhD, obviously, in engineering. We have another PhD in engineering. I think we have eight master's degrees, 2 PhDs, and like 11 undergrad degrees in either data science, analytics, business. Our team is solid. And we really do use AI. We're not using regression models. We're not using, although regression can be part of the analysis, right? And hopefully I'm not going too far down a rabbit hole right now. The point is that we've taken a really unique and elegant approach to artificial intelligence and using it to our benefit for making NFL predictions on the point total and the spread. That's all we do. We do money line, point total, and spread. And for the most part, we just tell people, focus on our spread and our point total picks. If you really want to make money, the units that you'll win, the ROI on betting with us is over 35%. For every $100 you bet with us, historically you'll win $35. That counts for the VIG. That counts for wins and losses. All in, the return on your investment is better than the stock market, 35%.
That is pretty good, man. That is really quite good. Again, betyardai.com is the website, and NFL30 is the code for you to sign up today. Love you, brother. Appreciate you. We will see you late night on Sunday for Project Gameday. Thanks for hopping on this morning, pal.
Yes, sir. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Femi Ayanbadejo, Ravens Super Bowl 35 champion. I struggle with that idea. Again, the macro versus micro, right? The macro, do the Ravens get too conservative? We could have that conversation. The micro, you just can't. You can't give me that from yesterday. You cannot coherently make that argument about yesterday's game. And you can't even say what John Harbaugh said afterwards, which, again, is the first time that you've agreed with anything that John Harbaugh said after a game. This is the picky-choosy thing that we do. John Harbaugh, do you guys think you got maybe a little bit too conservative there? I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Maybe we did. That's not – I want you to go back through. You go back through and show me the evidence. Show me where the Ravens got too conservative. Because, again, if the argument is they kept running the ball, that was the thing that they were doing well. I just can't make that argument for yesterday's game. Can have a bigger picture conversation about who the Ravens are under John Harbaugh. We can have a bigger picture conversation about a lot of things. But from yesterday's game, we're force-feeding a narrative that doesn't actually exist. And the one play that you could hold up to make an argument, which, again, one play does not an argument make, but the one play, while I could side with you I could also side with the idea of, hey, we have 3 points. And if we've got 3 points and we made a 4-possession game, the game's over. So the one thing we're not going to do here is anything that risks us taking a sack, getting knocked back beyond a 50-yard field goal, which I don't know if you've heard.
What?
That's been a bit of an issue.
Ravens are always good at kicking field goals.
Yeah, they used to be. I took a deeper dive into it.
Okay.
It's coming today at PressBoxOnline.com, by the way. I took a deeper. I actually tried out some AI for the first time in writing a column.
AIGC.
It's interesting because this is one of the big. I will tell you, I used a Microsoft Copilot. Just trying it out, just seeing, and some of their data was wrong, and I, as a human, I'm glad I didn't just simply rely on. I just wanted to try it. It's something that I've had a lot of people say, hey, there is good use for AI, and it can help you in writing. Like, so, for example, last night, everybody that wants to follow the idea that Justin Tucker is washed at 34 doesn't fly with me. So then I wanted to go through and the history of kickers over the age of 34, right? I feel like kickers regularly kick and succeed into their late 30s and into their 40s. But maybe I'm wrong. So I tried that out with AI and then did my backup. And they got that one right. They found the Microsoft Copilot found a significant list of kickers that have had success well past the age of 34. And, in fact, hang on. I think I had it. It's something like 8. There's been 20. Hang on a second. Let me find this number again. There have been 24 occasions in NFL history where a Pro Bowl kicker has been 34 or older. The notion that 34 is some line in the demarcation that kickers just fall off a cliff doesn't jive.
Not like 30 for wide receivers, unless they're Mike Evans or
Mike Evans. Mike Evans didn't do anything yesterday.
No, he didn't do anything. But the Bucs didn't do anything yesterday.
Yeah, that's a fact.
I guess Godwin was okay.
Really weird day. But then, for example, I really was kind of testing this AI yesterday, last night as I was doing this column. And I said, hey, could you go through this season and give me the field goal statistics for all kickers not named Justin Tucker? And they gave me bad numbers. So thankfully, I backed up and I...
Good thing Glenn Clark's still human.
It's funny because I was almost like I was debating with AI then. I sent back my math doesn't say the same thing. Could you double check that? And ironically, the second time they got the numbers right.
Well, they were testing you.
I don't know what happened there, and that's why
they're how much of a market are we dealing with?
I'm still a little standoffish about how we use AI because, I'm telling you, that was flatly wrong. The first thing they gave me.
I think it was them testing you, not you testing.
They
wanted you to think that you were in control.
Right. That's what they wanted to think. Here's what I'll give you. My theory has been the Wolfpack. That's been my theory. 2016 to 2020, Justin Tucker made 93.1% of his field goals. He missed 14 field goals total in that 5-year span.
Wow.
In 2 years and 3 games since then, he's missed 14 field goals, the exact same amount as he missed in the entirety of the 5 years leading up where the Wolfpack was together. Again, I can't tell you specifically that's the answer. And if it is the answer, it can't be fixed. Sam Cook's not coming out of retirement next week.
Well,
they can't just say to the Titans, hey, can we get Givesies backsies here in order to put it back together? The ultimate problem with the Justin Tucker conversation, and you can work through all of my work, is it's as awkward as it was originally. And that's sort of the premise of the column. People forget how awkward the decision was for the Ravens to go with Justin Tucker in 2012. We all think of Billy Cundiff missing the kick in New England. I will tell you, I've had this. I think I talked about it recently. John Harbaugh accidentally told me that the Ravens were looking at kickers at the Combine that year. like was talking about some other topic and accidentally said, well, take for example, we had the kickers up with us last night. And then I had to say to him, John, did you catch what you just said? Because what you just said was that you were looking at the kickers. John said, oh, no, I was just saying that hypothetically. We're not actually looking at the kickers. But in my reporting that I used to do back then, and I did more of it at that time, what I was very comfortable with was that they weren't looking for a Billy Cundiff replacement. What they were looking for was competition to go into training camp and have someone push Billy Cundiff so that he could build his confidence back up during the course of that camp by winning a kicking competition. Billy Cundiff had been a Pro Bowler the year before. Actually, not just a Pro Bowler. First-team All-Pro the year before. Billy Cundiff was their solution after they had tried the Justin Tucker route with Stephen Hauschka. Like, they tried to do that. The hot young kicker, let's make him our guy. We've got our kicker for the future as we replace Matt Stover. They tried that with Stephen Hauschka. It failed. Billy Cundiff was their fallback plan and worked out quite well for them, save for one kick. It was awkward. They didn't want to let go of Billy Cundiff because they knew that if it was a Stephen Hauschka redux, that if 6 weeks into the season Justin Tucker wasn't the answer, they weren't going to be able to go back to Billy Cundiff. He was going to be employed. It was awkward for them. Very awkward to make the decision they made. Clearly, they got it right. We know that. But this is awkward as hell now. Because it's the same you can't keep two kickers on your roster. The NFL rosters just aren't constructed for you to be able to have a second kicker. I know once upon a time the Ravens actually did this, where they had Matt Stover as their kicker, but Wade Ritchie was their specific long field goal kicker and kickoff specialist. That was a thing that really existed. I think a couple other teams did it back then, but teams realized like that it creates an inequity. You don't have enough players. Now, maybe with practice squads call-ups being an option, this could be reconsidered, but for the most part, teams have realized you don't have enough spots on your roster, given all of the injuries that you deal with, to be using a second spot on a kicker.
Should we talk about, Jordan Stout doing kickoffs? Do you think that
kickoffs aren't the problem?
Yeah, I know, but so Tucker, what is this? Like tired is what?
I don't know what it is.
Exactly.
That's the problem.
Exactly.
The problem is
exactly. So why? So what? Maybe
the results are the only thing. Ultimately,
in Terry's career, he wasn't doing kickoffs.
I don't. That was in his 40s. Justin Tucker's 34 years old. We're talking about him like he's some sort of old man. He's 34 years old. Like he's this notion that suddenly he's washed or he physically can't do it or something. I don't know where that comes from. And again, it's not like
he's missed 3 straight field goals.
That's a different conversation. The results are the problem. And the issue is whatever, and again, I think the theory that a lot of people have is now it's seeped into his brain, right? Like now it's become, Rita used the word yips. You're not supposed to use that word, right? And like golf, you would never be allowed to hang out with your golf buddies again if you said the word yips. But it's some version of that, right? Like it's some version of it's now become something mental that after missing a few kicks, it's now in his head, and it's affecting his process. And maybe it's that, or maybe, again, my theory is it started with the dissolution of the Wolfpack. And the numbers would back that up. Like since Morgan Cox has been gone, he's missed as many kicks in the last 2 years and 3 games as he missed in the entirety of the 5 years leading up to it. Whatever it is, you don't have the entire season to figure it out. Femi brought that up last night. He said, look, I'm giving him the entire year. It damn near cost him a game yesterday. You can argue it cost him a game last week, but it's extraordinary to suggest that, like, a 56-yard kick, as much as we've come to trust that Justin Tucker, for a legitimate viewing an NFL kicker, it would be extraordinary to suggest that should always be 3 points. You are taking your chances. Now, I get we haven't felt that way in Baltimore, but that's not legitimate analysis. But yesterday, missing an indoor kick from 46 yards, that should be 3 points for anyone in the NFL. You can't be in the league if you're giving those types of points away. Now, somebody will point out Harrison Butker, who we've all praised and said might be better, Missed an extra point last night. Just bizarre. I don't have the answer of why or how. What I'm saying is the time. My gut still is the same as everybody else. That there'll be a Justin Tucker get-right game soon. Maybe it'll be this Sunday night, where it'll start, he makes a 40-yarder, then he makes a 44-yarder, then they say, all right, dude, 51-yarder, go for it. And the Justin Tucker will get right. That's my gut. But my point is that they can't let the season be derailed simply out of loyalty. And it's different than like an issue with, we talked about the comparison last night between kickers and closers. Closers, you can wait it out. Because what you can do is move them into a different role. You can say to your closer, hey, dude, you're going to have the 7th inning for a little bit. Or you're going to have blowouts. Now, that doesn't always work. Hello. But you have that option. You don't have that option with Justin Tucker. You can say Jordan Stout can try kickoffs, but kickoffs ain't the problem. You don't have someone else that you're going to trot out to try a 54-yard field goal next week. Nor do you have the luxury of losing another roster spot on a kicker. Although, again, at some point, maybe the Ravens, because the worst case is they do get to a point where they feel like they have to have a different kicker, and then they let Justin Tucker go, and he shows up in Buffalo, and he's Justin Tucker again, and he's kicking for them in the playoffs. And you're paying him to beat you. So maybe at some point this season, they do consider the possibility of putting 2 kickers on the roster and saying, dude, we're going to let you reset for a while because we're not going to let you kick for somebody else. But you can't kick for us. We'll revisit this maybe once the season's over. I don't know. I don't know what the thought process will be. But to me, it's not all season. Like, this continues. You're going to have to do something by the midway point of the season. Because it definitely flirted with being the reason why you lost the game yesterday. Not the biggest reason. Everything came undone in that moment. Which doesn't absolve Zay Flowers or, they beyond the penalties, they also did just give up some big plays. Doesn't absolve anybody involved with that. Or Lamar Jackson missing the throw to Mark Andrews. But it all started with that thing. And there's no excuse for it. Every NFL kicker has to be able to make a 46-yard indoor kick. Every time. That is a bare minimum of your ability to do the job. Not to be a good one, to be capable of doing the job. All right, let's just do this because, by the way, that column will be coming today at PressBoxOnline.com. Let's go ahead and do Picks Recap and Pat's here, and then we'll talk to Rod Woodson coming up in a few minutes. Picks Recap brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Griffin, remind everybody there's some home games coming up.
That is true, and every time that the Baltimore football team or Washington football team score a touchdown during said home games, Live Rewards members will be receiving $7 in free slot play. You have to have your Live Rewards card inserted correctly into the slot machine, any slot machine on the floor, and be actively playing to receive the prize. And this is valid for slot play only, but once they score that touchdown, you will get, again, $7 in free slot play. This is Adirondack Mills, must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
And don't forget, we'll be there Thursday night, Inside Sports and Social, myself and Joe Serpico. He'll be helping fix your fantasy football team. I will have great giveaways. It's going to be a fun night Thursday night. We will see you there leading in to Dallas, New York. I would rather not talk about picks because it was another dreadful. I was low man on the totem pole. I was like, well, maybe it's like every other week and everybody else had a bad week. Nope. Not at all. Your boy went 3-6. Memphis Navy, that was great. Navy obviously not only covers but wins outright. Awesome. Well done. Massive win. Good start for the week.
Blake Horvath got the GCR bump.
Yo.
The GCR bump's back.
Yo. It's a Heisman Trophy winner, future Heisman Trophy winner, Blake Horvath. 6 touchdowns. Andrew Stecca, James Revere, John Proctor, Ryan Shell were bad Americans. Pick Memphis. Terrible, terrible Americans. I guess USC's not serious. Like, Michigan didn't even try.
So now the goalposts aren't coming down when they come to the college.
Yeah, I guess not. Maybe Iowa. Michigan didn't even try to be a football team. They just said, look, we're going to run the ball. That's all we can do. Good luck. And USC said, enjoy. Enjoy. I mean, I think they threw the ball like 4 times all day, Michigan, and yet they beat USC. So USC obviously did not cover the 5 points on the road. Andrew Stecca, Jeremy Kahn, John Proctor, Kyle Ottenheimer, and Paul Valley all got the point on Michigan. Tennessee, I'll acquiesce. I don't like trusting Tennessee, but that was a dominant performance. I think the more concerning part was like Oklahoma looked incapable of moving the football. They tried 2 different quarterbacks in that game. It didn't matter. They couldn't move the football. And some of that is Tennessee's defense, which is obviously outstanding. Some of it is just appears to be pure incompetence. But yes, the awkwardness of Josh Heupel, it's like being shot with your own gun, right? Like that's your guy coming in and whooping that ass. That's uncomfortable. That is uncomfortable. Only a few of us were in Oklahoma. Myself, Jeremy, Joe, John in Little Rock, and Ryan Shell.
Bad Americans. Yeah.
I don't think that has anything to do with America.
Well,
yeah, I don't think that's the case.
You take Tennessee.
Look, Minnesota winning, not all that stunning to me, but the Vikings destroying the Texans the way they did, the most eye-opening performance of the week by far.
Clearly, they're just missing Joe Mixon. That's all.
Is that what? Is that all it is?
That's all it is.
Because they don't have any receivers they could have thrown the ball to. Eye-opening, very eye-opening. I know there was some concern about Sam Darnold being banged up late in the game. I don't know if we've gotten any update about that today.
Find out.
But yeah, a dominant performance from Minnesota. Andrew Stecca, Griffin, John in Little Rock, John Proctor were all on that.
Well, that might be a theme.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you had a good week. There's no doubt about it. Philly, New Orleans, that was a barn burner, man. Like, New Orleans leading late. Philly's offense doesn't get going, but ultimately they do get the job done late, and they get the win on the road. Andrew, you were not on that one. Boy,
yeah,
that was only 1 or 2 that you got wrong.
Yeah,
James, John in Little Rock, and Ryan Chell were all on Philly and stole that point. Justin Herbert starts, but ultimately ends up getting hurt again during the course of the game in Pittsburgh, and then it all goes south for the Chargers after that. And so Pittsburgh indeed wins and improves to 3-0. Griffin and Jeremy and KZ were all on Pittsburgh in that one. Detroit does get the job done on the road, although that one got interesting late. Like, that one was one that, like, I thought Detroit was actually going to run away a bit in that game, and then that wasn't the case. Arizona stayed within a score, but ultimately Detroit ends up winning. Most of us were on Detroit in that one. Kansas City, Atlanta, I have a lot of things I want to say about it. Like, a lot of things that I want to say about it. The first being, yes, it's egregious, the pass interference. Egregious. Awful. Second being, though, Atlanta did the bit where they made a first decision chase their next decision. When they decided their penultimate drive, where they turned the ball over on downs.
Okay.
Not the final one, the second to last, penultimate. They converted on 4th down. So then they get the 4th and 5 from the 6 and decide to go for it again, almost specifically because they'd already gone for it once, and they didn't want to have the situation play out where they went for it once and now they ended up settling for a field goal anyway, because then all you're saying is, well, you just wasted another 2 minutes to get the result that you could have had before. But 4th and 5 from the 6 is an extraordinarily unlikely play to convert. They're just defending. You're not likely to be able to pick up the first down. It's one thing if it's 4th and 1 from the 2, then you got a chance of getting the first down without scoring a touchdown. It's very unlikely that you're going to get exactly 5 yards on that play. So you're essentially putting yourself in a position where you have to get a touchdown. And as much as we can be frustrated with the pass interference, and it was a terrible call, an egregiously awful call in a big spot, you got to take your points there. And if you do, and then you get the stop that you ultimately got, well, then isn't it crazy you have the chance to win the game because you ended up back in field goal range at the end? You're chasing in that spot. It was a good decision to go for it the first time. It was a bad decision to go for it the second time. 4th and 5 from the 6 is a bad place to go for it. But then compounded by 4th and 1 at the end of the game, 4th and a foot and a half at the end of the game. And everything about this is just insanity. The broadcast saying, well, you can't do a tush push because Kirk Cousins is too immobile in order to be able to do it. Put someone else under center.
Put Kyle Pitts there.
Put Kyle Pitts there. As people brought up, the Ravens have tried both Charlie Kohler and Mark Andrews over the years in this spot. Put Kyle Pitts there. I don't know, the backup, the guy that you drafted in the first round, that guy has some mobility, correct? Put him in the game. Say to Michael Penix, hey, until you're ready to play, we need you to be an expert on falling forward. And it goes beyond this. It's first of all, the play call they called was asinine. I mean, a stretch run on, what in the world is that? This is where, like, the big brains get in your way because, like, all right, with chess match, they're going to think we're going to run right up the middle. So instead, we're going to do something crazy and we're going to stretch run. Which, again, sounds good if you can do it at the line of scrimmage. But you create a scenario where instead of needing a foot and a half, you now need 4.5 yards. It's big brain stuff, man. Every team in football should have a tush push. Every team. It's unfathomable to me that we just keep allowing ourselves to, well, Philly just must be that much better at it than everybody else. No, nobody else is obsessing over it. Every team in football should be capable of saying, we need a foot and a half, great. Tush push, done. And whoever you line up, because I get it, Kirk Cousins ain't a great choice for that, although Tom Brady was not the most mobile quarterback. And yet, nobody in football history was ever better at lunging forward for a foot and a half.
Well, it's just because, like you said, no one was expecting it. So.
Right. It's asinine that you don't, every team does not have an effective foot and a half play. We're not going backwards. We're not going back. We're not going back. We're not going back. We're not going to try to get 5 yards on 4th and a foot. We're going to try to get a foot. It's insanity. But ultimately, Falcons shoot themselves in the foot multiple times late, and they end up losing. And so, yeah, bad week for your boy, 3-6. And now I am tied at the bottom of the table.
Ooh, this would be a fun trio if they all stay.
Brutal. Myself, me, Proctor, and Casey. Yeah, we are tied at the bottom of the table. Now, we're only 4 games back at the top of the table. Like, let's not pretend like anybody's running away because Griffin,
I like we got nice even tiers here.
Yeah, Griffin with his huge 7-2 week is now tied at the top of the table.
Get used to it.
Along with, let's maybe not say things we're going to regret, with Kyle and James Revere. A game behind them, Ryan Shell, Jeremy Kahn, Paul Valley. 2 games back, Joe Serpico, John Keller, and Andrew Stetka. Now, what we're playing for at the top of the table is some cash. At the bottom of the table, we want to avoid being the one that's got to come in here and do the Brazilian punishment, which, yes, is getting a Brazilian, getting 4 strikes from John Rollo, eating this
Couscous Paulista.
Yeah, that thing, singing Copacabana in Rio. Now, you might have remembered us suggesting that today was the day that Jeremy Kahn was going to come in and pay his punishment. This one, it didn't happen. It's a complicated story, and Jeremy, at some point, I have no doubt, will probably talk about it, and we'll let him talk about it whenever he wants to talk about it. We're hoping it might be tomorrow. That's what we're hoping, but we can't say that definitively. There is a story. We're not mad. This isn't a failure. This was also, frankly, it should have happened last week. Our fault to begin with because we didn't nail things down. But yeah, keep looking around. Keep looking around over there. Should have happened last week. But it's what it is. We will hope to be able to do it tomorrow. That would be a lot of fun. We just can't make promises yet. And Jeremy, at some point, might have more to say about that, and we will see. But hopefully that'll be the case. All right, now, quickly, pats on the ass. You know the deal. 5 Ravens. 2 must be offensive players. 2 must be defensive players. The last one can be another offensive player, another defensive player, a special teams player, or a coach. Rank them 5 to 1. Number 1 being your man of the match. Pats on the Ass brought to you this week by County Sports Zone. CountySports.zone is where you find everything you need to know about high school sports in the state of Maryland. Scores, schedules, updates, rankings. They've got it all. Every team, every sport, all year long. CountySports.zone. Proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. My number 5, my second defensive player, Kyle Hamilton. Looked a lot more like Kyle Hamilton yesterday. You know, obviously I thought about Nate Wiggins for making the big play early, but he got picked on a little bit as the game went on. Kyle Hamilton just looked more like Kyle Hamilton, was more of an overall force, and so for that, he's my number 5.
Yeah, I went with Daniel Falele as my number 5, mainly because Lamar told me to.
Right, he did say put some respect on that man's
name.
name.
I mean, you know, they had a great game. They obviously played to the offensive line strengths, and it worked well. And on the final play of the game, he was the pulling guard on the 2nd and 9 that Lamar picked up the first down to seal it. So I thought, I mean, Falele, for as much crap as we gave them the first 2 weeks, I thought he bounced back.
He was my number 4, and maybe there's some grading on a curve there, right, where we're saying, hey, it was so bad that he so dramatically outperformed expectations. But yeah, I felt a lot of that too. He was my number 4.
Hamilton was my number 4.
Well, how about that? Look at us.
He felt he was always on the ball.
Lamar's number 3 could have been higher on the list, but the miss to Andrews was noteworthy. Lamar's number 3.
I did have him a little bit higher. I had Cal Van Noy as my number 3.
Cal Van Noy is my number 2.
Van Noy was very good. I mean, just like
it's heroic what Cal Van Noy. Now, look, part of the problem though, once they were on the field a lot, you could see that edge rush was gassed, and that was part of the story. It's what makes not coming up with that onside kicks. It's like awful because it's tangibly awful possession wise, but then it's additionally awful because your group has just been out there for a prolonged drive and coming on the heels of the missed field. It's just a lot. And you could see that the edge rush was tiring as the game went on. But it's what this dude is doing is nuts, man. Playing through a fractured orbital bone and 4 sacks over 2 weeks. It's crazy, man. He's number 2.
He gets to break his orbital bone every couple weeks, I guess.
And
just like Dean getting hit with a line drive, you know.
You're number 2?
Lamar is my number 2.
So,
I mean, yeah, he did exactly. You know, he did what they needed to win.
No doubt.
You know, he wasn't going to go out there begging to throw for 300 yards. He dropped back 15 times, and the final 2 plays of the game, won him the game. So Lamar.
And look, Derrick Henry's number 1, and it's the same group of 5 guys, just in different orders that everyone has gotten in with. I don't know that we have not yet received somebody tried to cheat and say the entire offensive line, but there's not been a specific name other than the same 5.
Wow,
which is wild.
Well, you haven't heard my number 1 yet.
Yeah, go ahead.
Derrick Henry.
All right, thank you. Pats on the ass. We'll get him up at Glenn Clark
Close
Radio.
to Justice Hill, maybe.
Yeah, I mean Justice Hill had a nice game. Yeah, he certainly was in consideration for me. He did have a nice game. We'll get him up, GlennClarkRadio.com.
Washington,
It's a tougher sell. We'll get him up at GlennClarkRadio.com a little bit later on. Rod Woodson, the Hall of Famer, joins us next. He was not happy with the officials yesterday. We'll talk to him about that. I can't imagine. We'll talk to him about that and more. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
At A.J. Michaels Heating and Cooling, you get maximum value for your investment. You'll save 50% in heating cost, get $6,000 in rebates, and a no-interest energy loan. That's value. Find us at ajmichaels.com. That's ajmichaels.com.
Experience the thrill of the Mars Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented by Brown Advisory, coming October 17th to the 20th. See the world's best equestrians compete in the sport of eventing, the ultimate test of horse and rider. Enjoy a weekend festival featuring locally sourced food at the Fresh Food Fest, a beer, wine, and spirits showcase, shopping, and fun for all ages. Check out the Maryland Corgi Cup, interactive kids corner, and more. It's the place to be in October. Visit maryland5star.us for tickets.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their legendary fat, delicious, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. It's crab season, so sit back and crack some crabs while watching the Birds pursue another divisional title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday night, the Costas Inn offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30. So head on down to the Costas Inn today at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at CostasInn.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin, and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
The latest edition of Pressbox is available now. On the cover, Bo Smolka profiles Ravens star safety Kyle Hamilton, detailing his path from growing up the son of a basketball player to choosing football, being overlooked in the draft, and turning into a defensive unicorn as a playmaking Swiss Army knife in the NFL. Also inside, meet college football players from all of the area's D1 programs and some of the area's college soccer standouts as well. Pressbox is available for free at over 500 locations throughout the region, including 60 Royal Farm stores. Or you can read the entire issue at PressBoxOnline.com, where you can also find great betting advice and the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps.
One of the things that's definitely wrong with this country is that this dude still has a job somehow, some way. Glenn Clark.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Monday edition of the program. One of my favorite events all year long is Maritime Magic. And, of course, I love everything about Living Classrooms and what it is that they do. And Maritime Magic is back for 2024, the best annual benefit on the Baltimore waterfront. Celebrate and support the important work of the Living Classrooms Foundation on Friday, October 4th from 6 to 10 p.m. Enjoy delicious food, drinks, and live music by the Motet. Get your tickets now at livingclassrooms.org/maritime-magic. John in Little Rock. Truly a happy Monday. Ravens going to win. Let's go. By the way, Rita was on fire last night. Loved it and the passion y'all bring to every postgame show. Remember, a win is a win. Let's beat Buffalo now. I do think that's important. Like, we do tend to do this bit where, like, we forget the part that matters most is that it was a win. Like, it's a win. That's the thing that matters in football is winning, and they did that. So it's fair to point that out. From Jeff. Jeff says, Glenn, will be interested in reading your Tucker column. I guess my issue at this point is what would the alternative be? Let's say he misses 2 more kicks the next 3 weeks. Are you straight up just cutting him? Are you bringing in someone to feign competition in the middle of the season in order to try to do what you just suggested they did for Billy Cundiff? How is it that you're going about attacking this? Are you really going to have confidence in some street free agent that goes beyond the confidence that you have in Justin Tucker's history? I agree that you can't really give him all year, but I think Femi's point is well taken, which is that you're not going to be moving on from him in season. Again, this depends on what happens. Like that, I mean, that really is what I'm talking about. This depends on what happens. If Justin Tucker, only misses 1 kick in the next 4 weeks, and that 1 kick is a 55-yarder, then I think they're going to not panic. I think they're going to choose to believe that it's business as usual. I'm not going to. I think this is relevant based on results. The point is, you're at the point where you can't pretend like there isn't something happening, or where you can even hide behind, well, these are all really long kicks, and it's an anomaly. You can't do any of those things. There's an actual problem. A defined, legitimate issue that's now also impacting their decision-making. And even if they were playing for it on the decision to run the ball on 3rd and 5 yesterday. I think it'd be interesting to see moving forward if they still would. It might very well be that they just thought they could pick up 5 yards on the run because, again, they were gashing on the run. But they clearly had it impact their decision-making later in the game when they decided to eschew a 57-yard attempt in favor of a punt, despite being indoors. And how that impacts other decisions they make moving forward. Like we can say, when we see a missed field goal, it's easy to see the cost of that. But the cost of not having complete faith in your kicker and how that impacts other decisions you might make is also significant. So I'm not telling you there's a direct answer. The answer is still based largely on what the results are in the coming weeks. Are the kicks made? Are they not made? Like, that part of this still matters significantly. I don't have the answer. No one does. No one. The Ravens don't. I don't think Justin Tucker does. No one has the answer. But it's real, and the thought has to exist. Like, we have to think about the possibility that there's a world where, at some point this season, someone else might need to be kicking. This is the Buck Showalter thing, the don't let the star fall on you. I have way more grace for Justin Tucker than I did. We always compare kickers and closers because it's so unique, right? There's so few things in sport where it's so specialized. And intense pressure. Like, you could say a loogie in baseball is specialized, but it's not the 9th inning of the game. These things just, I guess goalies, it's specialized, but goalies are involved in more of the game than kickers typically are, particularly hockey goalies. I guess soccer, you could have a scenario where a team just simply doesn't face that many shots. But still, you're going to have the ball kicked back to the goalie. They're on the field. They're part of things. We directly compare kickers and closers because of the unique nature of both the specialization and the pressure. I have more grace for Justin Tucker than I ever had for Craig Kimbrell because Justin Tucker is Justin Tucker. He's earned that and spades. And it's why last year, as the 50-plus yard kick thing started to come out, none of us were talking about replacing Justin Tucker in the offseason. He had more than earned that grace. More than. He's Justin Tucker, for God's sakes. And I still have more grace for Justin Tucker today. Here's the truth. If it wasn't Justin Tucker, if the Ravens had drafted some new kicker in the offseason, I would not be having that grace today. Who was the cat that the Buccaneers drafted? So Aguayo, remember that guy? If that cat was kicking for the Ravens this year, my answer after 3 games would be bring in guys this week. So Justin Tucker still gets more grace. He got more grace last year. He still, to this point, gets more grace by being Justin Tucker and having done it here. I did not have that grace for Craig Kimbrell. His history meant nothing to me. 0. Because it didn't happen here. And also, again, that had been more relevant 4 years ago before we first started to see that Craig Kimbrell wasn't really Craig Kimbrell. Justin Tucker gets all the grace in the world to the point at which it legitimately changes your football team. And then grace has to meet reality. And that day might be coming sooner than we could have fathomed it. Not today, but we got to talk about it. I still would have hedged my bets on this is Justin Tucker. He's not 40 years old. He's 34. He should still be in the prime of his career. Kickers aren't falling off. He's not. It's the distance ain't the problem. He'll get it figured out. And the Ravens need to investigate the entirety of the operation. Like, they need to go through and see, is there anything that we're missing related to the snap? Is there anything that we're missing related to the hold? They need to consider every element of what's going on. Unquestionably. But ultimately, he's got to make the kicks. And he's not doing it. And that's the reality. So that's where I'm at. Just where I'm at. And, we'll see how the next few weeks go. And this could be something that we continue to talk about. Or hopefully, it's not. Hopefully, we don't ever have to talk about it again. All right, we'll try to find Rod Woodson and see what's going on with him. But in the meantime, why don't we go ahead and do 3 Up and 3 Down? 3 Up and 3 Down is brought to you this week by the print issue of Press Box, which is available for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms, any of the hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box. Kyle Hamilton, as we mentioned, had a really nice day yesterday. There he is on the cover. Great cover story from Bo Smolka about his rise. Go pick up that print issue of Press Box right now at your neighborhood Royal Farms, any of the hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box. You can read it all. PressBoxOnline.com. And again, everybody who gets in for either 3 Up and 3 Down today or for Pats on the Ass will be registered to win a $50 gift card to Costas Inn, which is the Costas Inn. I think that's all I need to say. Do I have to say anything more? It's the Costas Inn. Perhaps you've heard of it. It's wonderful. Oh, I reposted a picture of the bowl of cream of crab soup that I had there a couple Saturdays ago, and I just start, feeling things, just looking at it.
Might be a great day for that, too. Man.
Yeah, today does look like a soup day. Does look like a soup day. I put on a light jacket today for the first time. Still wore shorts.
Threw the flannel on, too.
I still wasn't ready to give up on shorts just yet. Because as anybody who knows me knows, the first day I don't wear shorts, it's over. We're not going back. We're not going back. The moment it's either short season or it's pants season. And once I go to pants season, there's no revisiting short season. It's just the way it goes. You can say, hey, Glenn, what if you check the weather? What if one day? Nope.
It's going to be 90.
Not happening. 90. Not happening. No. Pants season or short season, there is no in between. So I'll go light jacket and shorts. But the moment I go to pants, that's it. That's ball game. Shut it all down. Pack it all up. We'll see you back here in May. That's the way it goes. So I'm clinging. I'm holding on. Soup Day, Costas Inn. Recommended highly. 3 Up, 3 Down.
You're like Puxtony Phil. It's
what?
Where once Glenn puts on
pants, forget it.
It's winter.
Forget
it's
it,
winter.
100%. All right, 3 Up. Number 3, Gunnar Henderson. The bummer being should have been the clutchest hit of the season. Should have been the biggest moment of the season. Orioles had a lot of positive momentum from Thursday and Friday. Everything was going their way. And then that should have been the moment that made everybody feel like, okay, this team does really still have a chance. This is still legitimate. This is not a mirage. Then imagine if you follow that up. If all that happens is Cedric Mullins hits a fly ball, they score a run, or even if Jackson Holliday would have scored on the pop-up with the collision, then you combine that with then getting Westberg and Arias back on Sunday, the vibes are immaculate. And yet it wasn't. But it was still a good week for the most part for Gunnar Henderson, including what, again, should have been the biggest clutch hit of the season and just wasn't. And you might say, well, hey, what about all the walk-off home runs? Anthony Santander's grand slam, you'll say, was the biggest clutch hit of the season. But there's something about the fact that it wasn't a home run for this team, that they were able to put together a rally. What a thought! What a concept! Who knew that was allowed? Gunnar Henderson's number 3.
Yeah, I've had Gunnar one spot up higher just because of how big that hit felt. And
if they had won, I think I would have agreed with you.
Yeah.
The fact that ultimately it didn't work out, I I couldn't overweigh that over somebody that had a better overall week.
And it was a tough, I don't know, it felt like a tough week. I went with Colton Cowser as my number 3.
Colton Cowser is my number 2.
Because, I mean, he had the best OPS of the week. Initially
now, a lot of that is because the 2 home runs on Friday night.
Yes, exactly.
But still.
Yeah. He didn't strike out as much, I guess, as he does.
Yep.
Or as he has in the past. So, coming in, I was like, oh, Santander's at number 3. And then and Santander just did, outside of the home run.
Yep, correct.
He did not have a good week.
Correct.
So, yeah, Cowser my 3, Gunnar my 2.
Cowser's my 2, and of course Corbin Burns is my number 1 because he was brilliant on Friday. That was Corbin Burns, man. Like I don't know what happened a few weeks ago, but that was spectacular on Friday night. So Corbin Burns.
I think his next game will be against the Tigers too. So
well, no, his next game would be against the Yankees.
Oh, is he pitch? Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I guess he'll line up the pitch earlier.
Yeah,
all right,
he'll pitch Thursday, and then
hopefully it doesn't mess him up. Just not seeing the Tigers, it doesn't mess. Maybe.
Well, and then there is the question at some point if they just if they're locked in, if in the next couple of days they're locked in, do you just sort of say skip it?
You go 3 innings or something.
Or something like that. Yeah, I think that would be. Because you would want him to be it would be Tuesday, correct?
Yeah.
So that does become the issue with it not being Wednesday this week, with them having the off day today. It does become a little bit of an issue, almost to the point where you wonder if they.
So Eflin.
Hang on a second.
It's Wednesday, right? I think Eflin's lined up for Wednesday.
He would be lined up. Let me just double check. Yeah, he's lined up for Wednesday. So it's Kramer, Eflin, Corbin Burns. There is a small part of me that would wonder. I guess they could also just do the other thing where they have Eflin start game 1 and Burns start game 2 of a playoff series instead. That would be their option. Is because you could go Burns on, short rest on Wednesday just to make sure he's lined up for Tuesday. But ultimately, you're going to need 2 starting pitchers for this series, so I could also see them just saying, hey, Eflin, simply based on rest, Eflin gets game 1 and Burns gets game 2, and it's not that significant of a difference to us. But, yeah, Corbin Burns, number 1.
Yes,
phenomenal.
my number 1 as well.
Phenomenal. Down, number 3, Cedric Mullins. And I could have put him higher on the list. I mean, it's just shameful that happened. The Saturday thing is so hurtful here. It's so hurtful. And I guess Santander probably, again, in the same vein, Santander could have been on the list, but he did have a huge clutch moment this week, so that saved him from the list. But Cedric Mullins, number 3.
Cedric Mullins escaped my list. I mean,
he had a bad week,
everyone had a bad week.
There's something to be said for that.
Craig Kimbrell was my number 3 because
just wanted to
one more. One last party.
One more at the door.
I mean, he was terrible. He was. I mean, I guess almost poetic that was probably his worst appearance. Maybe the worst appearance. Without looking at every outing of his career, that might be the worst appearance of his career on what was that Tuesday night. And Craig Kimbrell, my number 3. Yeah, my number 3.
Okay.
And I mean, they were still not completely out of that game. Obviously, knowing what knowing that they're the Orioles and they're not hitting this month, they were out of it. But
that's tough. That's tough.
They weren't. So
number 2, Jackson Holiday. Again, for a moment last week, you started to buy into the idea that maybe Jackson Holiday's back, right? Like maybe there's. But then you compound that with the. You want to blame Tony Manzolino for what happened? Blame Tony Manzolino.
He should be on the list.
I know Ryan Ripken has come to the defense of Jackson Holiday and said, well, there's just no way that you're thinking about a tag up there, so it doesn't even make sense to consider it. But the argument that those couple of feet are going to be any different in your ability to score if that ball drops is going to fall flat with me every time. And what happens there, we could talk that through all the time. There is no world in which I'm not aggressively trying to score that run because you already have 2 outs. It's one thing if that happens, if Cedric Mullins pops up like that. But I'm doing everything in my power to score that run because you've now taken away. If that happens in the first at-bat, you say, look, we still have another out where you don't even need to get a hit. You can score the run and win the game. But that's gone away once you've recorded the second out. It's the thing we talk about all the time. You don't make the first or the third out at third base. But we always talk about how there's grace on the second out because you understand the significance of it. If you can get a runner to third base with just 1 out, then you can score that runner without a hit. There's value in that. It's why we always say specifically you don't make the first or the third out at third base. And it's the same thing for me there. You've got to be aggressive in that moment. And while like off the bat, that doesn't seem like a play where you're going to score a run on a sac fly, you've got to be in tune with what actually happens there. And so, yes, I'm being harder on Jackson Holliday, who ended up being semi-helpful in a couple of games last week. But that Saturday thing to me is the lowest. That's after getting the momentum back, the players coming back, and giving this fan base a reason to believe that there could still be something real here. Saturday to me is the worst loss of the season. And I know it's also recency bias, and you can say all of that, but my God, how does that happen? How does that happen? Jackson Holliday's my number 2.
Yeah, Holiday not on my list either. I mean, I think largely because Saturday was an awful loss, and I put more of the blame on Tony Mansolino.
I don't know how to measure that.
I don't know either.
I don't know how to measure that.
I put it more on him than any specific player. I mean, obviously, they haven't been scoring anybody from third.
See, but I don't have an issue with him sending Adley Rutschman. So. I don't have a problem with that. You're aggressive. You're trying to win. I don't have a problem with him sending Adley Rutschman. I don't. Whatever happened in the 9th inning, I just don't know where the measurement is between him and Jackson Holliday.
Austin Slater was my number 2, just because he had an awful week. He tried to kill Cedric Mullins. He needs to shave his mustache. He doesn't hit anymore. Like, I guess he hit for like a week. Austin Slater is my number 2. Mustache. It looks terrible.
Chris getting on him about the mustache.
And I know what a good mustache looks like.
All right, fine. And look, Albert Suarez, it's a bummer. It's a bummer, man, but this was the absolute wrong time for... And it's not even like he got his brains beat in, but this was the absolute worst time for Albert Suarez to go back to just being a guy. Yeah. Again, this is a 5th starter still in baseball. Like, this is not Trevor Rogers, but they needed Albert Suarez to be more than a 5th starter this week, and he wasn't. So Albert Suarez is number 1 on the list.
Yes.
All right.
Correct. You got that one right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you judged this one, and you figured out that one is correct. Continue to get me yours. Again, anyone who gets in for either 3 up and 3 down or for Pats on the Ass today will be registered to win a $50 gift card to Costas Inn. Come back in, Tidbit and Tubular, I guess. That's what's next. It's Glenn Clark Radio. Brace yourselves for an unparalleled in-person betting experience at the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbook and Bars in Canton and Towson. Experience the thrill of live betting with Baltimore's only state-of-the-art Vegas viewing TV experience. Choose between our on-site tellers or the convenience of our self-bet kiosks to place your bets. Gather your betting buddies and head over to the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks today. Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks in Towson and Canton. The ultimate destination for game day excitement, great food, and live in-person betting. Must be 21. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Go to mdgamblinghelp.org.
Hey Baltimore, it's number 10, Arthur Millette, and I'm hoping you'll slot us in all season long for the Arthur Millette Show. We will be traveling around the region all season, giving you the chance to get to know me and my teammates. There will be some football talk and a lot more. You can watch this show live on Pressbox's Facebook and YouTube pages and listen every Friday night on 105.7 The Fan. Find out more at PressBoxOnline.com/Millette. The Arthur Millette Show, the only show in town that's a work of art.
The next Arthur Millette Show is Tuesday, October 1st at the Green Turtle in Towson. It's brought to you by Easy Pass and 1-800-GAMBLER.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
If you're looking at your old boiler with a jaundiced eye, it's time to call A.J. Michaels. You'll save 50% of your energy, get a $600 rebate, and an 18-month no-interest energy loan. Find us at ajmichaels.com. That's ajmichaels.com.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. There, you just saved money with Easy Pass, all without slowing or receiving a notice in the mail. Well done, thrifty driver, well done. Get your Easy Pass at DriveEasyMD.com.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
Back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Monday edition of the program. Of course, had it out, rehashed, hashed again. Everything that happened as the Ravens held on and did beat the Cowboys yesterday to improve to 1-2, and we will have plenty of time all week long to continue to rehash, hash again, hash it out, and talk through all of it ahead of Ravens-Bills this coming Sunday night. But let's begin to wind things down. Why don't we go ahead and get a tidbit?
Have you ever thought of taking a cruise to these wonderful destinations with sunny skies and beautiful beaches? Well, wait no longer. We're ready for you to cruise from the Cruise Maryland Terminal.
Have a little phrase that you can go from baggage to margarita in about 15 minutes.
Choose fun with an array of destinations, onboard activities, entertainment, and world-class cuisine.
Contact your travel agent and book your cruise today. Let your adventure begin.
All right, what you got?
Let's start with sorry, had it. So we did mention Sam Darnold and the Vikings. He's currently getting an MRI. He was in good spirit. He was in high spirits after the game.
High
yesterday.
spirits, you
yes,
say?
Yes. He downplayed it is what
okay.
the latest report was.
All right.
But nothing this morning. The first
By the
team.
way, I do want to say something. A lot of this sort of, I would say it's almost brainless. Well, if you're seeing Sam Darnold succeed and Malik Willis, and it's proof that coaching is more important than quarterback. No. And obviously you believe that because you're rushing out to get your bets in on Minnesota winning the Super Bowl this year, correct? Because you know that coaching is more important than quarterback. We just say these things. By the way, coaching is really important. Really important. And I do think that Kevin O'Connell's doing a great job with Sam Darnold. And I do think that the Vikings also have an outstanding defense, and that's helped. I think Mike Greenberg sent out apparently Mike Greenberg canceled on us this week. That son of a bitch. And through Justin Fields is not the story. If you think the story of the Steelers is Justin Fields, you're just saying I haven't watched the games, which doesn't mean that I don't think Justin Fields shouldn't be the starter. I thought that before the season. But the Steelers are Steelersing their way to winning games. And
stealing games?
Yes. They might be able to continue doing it. But this bizarro bit where we want to try to force feed some narrative. It's really cool what's going on in Minnesota with Sam Darnold. It's really cool. Last week, we thought the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were unbeatable. And then they got shellacked at home by what we thought was one of the worst teams in football. Settle down. The quarterback is definitively still the most meaningful part of a football team, by far. But, as always, you can get more out of less with good coaching. We'll see if that continues.
And the Vikings have a team. They do look pretty good. They are doing something that has not been done for almost 30 years. The 2024 Vikings. This comes from Tony Holtzman-Escarino from NFL Research. First team to allow 10 or fewer points per game and have the NFL's outright passing touchdown leader in Sam Darnold through the first 3 games of the season since the 1996 Packers. Where
sure.
Brett Favre, they did go on to win the Super Bowl that season. So,
right.
So yeah, if everyone is going to get there, I guess go ahead and get your Viking Super Bowl bets in because they seem to be the best team in the NFL through 3 weeks. So yeah, I guess roll with it.
All right.
Army also had a big win over the weekend. So both Navy and Army are 3-0 to start the year for the first time. Or sorry, no, they've been 3-0 before. The last time they were both 4-0. Army and Navy.
Sure. 1960.
Further back.
1934.
A little further up.
1944.
One more year.
1945.
1945. So yeah, just good for the service academies there. And Lamar and this came from the Ravens. Lamar and Derrick Henry both they became the second
Try to
Ravens
see who
duo
Army's
ever.
played so far. Just to see
They beat Rice this past weekend.
They beat Rice. They beat Florida Atlantic the previous week.
Yeah.
And Lehigh in week 1.
Legit?
Maybe.
Maybe not Lehigh, but
yeah, maybe. We'll find out.
So Lamar and Henry they became the second Ravens duo to have 80 rush yards and run 1 rushing touchdown apiece. So 80 yards and a touchdown apiece. Second Ravens duo to do that.
80. Well, I want to default back to LeRon McClain and Willis McGahee in Dallas.
You would be correct.
Yeah.
That was the first time that the Ravens like having rushing duos in Dallas.
Yeah,
and,
that makes sense.
So yes, 2008.
They both got basically on one play. Like, I mean, one of them was definitely longer than 80 yards. I think one of them was like 83 yards. The other was 77 yards on their touchdown runs in the fourth quarter.
Right. Was LeBron's was like 70 yards? Was the short one? I don't know. I don't remember.
But
But yes.
to me, it still stands as like the greatest game and the greatest regular season game in Ravens history. It's the final game of the old Cowboy Stadium. Like the word was they handpicked the Ravens as their opponent for it because the Ravens had a rookie quarterback that year, and it was thought that was going to be a bit of a down season. They had, I think, both Dion and Michael Irvin on the NFL Network broadcast. It was like a Cowboys love fest, and they were freaking out in the fourth quarter. What is happening? It's just one of the great days in Ravens history.
A great day for Andy Dalton and the Panthers.
Sheesh.
As I guess that loss to the Raiders isn't aging too well. But if they just keep winning their games, it won't matter. Either way, Andy Dalton became the first quarterback this season to have 300 yards and 3 touchdowns in a game.
Wild. That's so wild.
It was I forget what tab I have, which computer.
By the way, it was 82 on the McClain run and 77 on the McGahee run.
Wow.
So I had it basically right. It was just flip-flop. McGahee's was 77, McClain's was 82.
13th game of Andy Dalton's career with 303 touchdowns. He ties him with Joe Flacco, 13th career among active quarterbacks.
Okay.
Can you name the top 8?
Most 3 touchdown games.
300 yards.
Sorry, 300 yard, 3 touchdown games.
3 touchdown games
Mahomes.
among active quarterbacks. He is not number 1, but he's in the top 8, of course.
I'm sure Rodgers is number 1.
Rodgers is number 1, 40, 303.
I'll still say Russ.
Yep, Russ is 8th.
Wow.
14.
Just snuck in.
Yeah, it did just sneak in. Andy Dalton's coming for him.
Snuck in.
And Flacco.
Right. Might be time to think about it. Might be time.
For the Colts?
Stafford.
For the Colts, you mean? Yeah. Yeah, Stafford. Rodgers 1, Stafford 2.
I'll go Goff.
Goff is 7th.
Okay.
Mahomes is 4th, by the way. So we need 3rd, 5th, and 6th.
See, now we've kind of reached the breaking point of like everybody else is younger. So it's who among the younger quarterbacks has done enough to make the list? Or is there some other wily veteran? Oh, Derek Carr.
Derek Carr is not.
Okay.
He has 10.
Spoken with way too much confidence. All right. Josh Allen.
Yep, Josh Allen. 6th on the list. 14. 14 games each for Allen, Goff, and Russell Wilson.
Burr.
No. Joe Burrow? No. 10. Tied with Derek Carr.
Guy sucks. That guy sucks. Dak.
Yes, Dak has 19.
And I need one more.
You do need one more. 3rd.
One more.
Rodgers has 40. Stafford has 29. This guy has 28.
28. So it's not someone who snuck onto the list. Somebody that I'm maybe blanking on that's still active. Jameis didn't start enough for it to be Jameis.
Jameis has 10 as well.
Hi. Who am I blanking on? 28. This is. Who the hell am I?
Still an active starting quarterback.
Still an active starting quarterback with 28? I got to go through this now. Allen, Jones, Rodgers, Jacoby Brissett, Hurts, Fields, Lamar, Jaden, Dalton. Oh, Kirk, right.
Yes,
yeah, Kirk.
Kirk Cousins.
Yeah,
Kirk
bad,
Cousins is third on this list.
My bad.
Yes. There you go.
Fault.
Well done. Hey, you got it. Hey, you got
I just
it.
had to. I don't know how I blanked on Kirk. All right, very good. Now, let's get tubular.
Experience the thrill of the Mars Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented by Brown Advisory, coming October 17th to 20th. See the world's best equestrians compete in the sport of eventing, the ultimate test of horse and rider. Enjoy a weekend festival featuring local food, shopping, and fun for all. Come for the event and stay for the experience in Cecil County, home to the Chesapeake Bay waterfront, vibrant small towns, and family entertainment. Tickets on sale now at maryland5star.us.
Monday Night Football doubleheader this week. Yeah, Monday Night Football tonight. Jaguars, Bills, and Commanders, Bengals. Jaguars, Bills up first, 7:30 on ESPN. Then Commanders, Bengals, 8:15 on ABC.
My friends talked me out of going Jets for Survivor this week.
Oh?
So I defaulted to Bengals.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Nervy moments
I'm
going
a
into
little
Monday Night
nervous.
Football.
I am a little
Nervy
nervous.
moments. MLB Network, Cubs, Phillies, 6:40, Giants, Diamondbacks at 9:40. MLB TV, the free game is Red Sox, Blue Jays at 7:07. ESPN Plus, Mariners, Astros at 8:10. CBS Sports Network, some Monday Night Football, Portland Thorns and Angel City at 10 o'clock. NHL Network, yeah. Did you know the NHL was playing preseason games?
I know the cap started yesterday.
Yeah,
right?
that started this weekend. Just jumped right up on me. What?
Still got some time.
This one's tougher for me. The Kings and the Utah Hockey Club tonight at 9 o'clock on NHL Network.
So UHC?
Yeah, not okay. Not okay with any of that. USA for WWE Monday Night Raw tonight at 8. Non-sports?
Not really not a whole lot at all. Halle Berry and Mike Tyson will be on Jimmy Kimmel tonight.
They are promoting Fight Night?
No. Mike Tyson is promoting a Fight Night, though.
Promoting the Aaron Hernandez?
No. Halle Berry's in a movie that came out Friday, Never Let Go. It's like a survivor thriller.
Sure.
It's a little scary.
Say so.
Haunted, not for me.
Yeah.
And then Mike Tyson's still fighting
When
Jake Paul.
when is this
At
nonsense?
the moment, it is supposed to happen November 15th.
Sure it is. All right, very good. Very good. That's it?
English teacher, new episode of that.
Okay. I did like that show.
Tickles anyone
It came around on me. Like it was a slow start, but it
Episode
got there.
5.
All right. Thanks today to Qadry Ismail. Thanks to Femi Ayanbadejo. We'll get that up in the greatest hits section of the
Here we go.
tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. It worked.
Yeah.
It worked. Anything tomorrow? We're hoping, Jeremy, but we don't know. We just got to be honest about that. We don't know. We'll be hopeful. The fingers crossed. Anything else?
Show certain go, but stuff and things.
Stuff and things. We'll get to work on that. Thanks to everybody at Pressbox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including the Maryland 5-Star Live Casino and Hotel, Cruise Maryland, Ocean City, Easy Pass, Royal Farms, Green Turtle Sportsbooks in Towson and Canton, HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, Costas Inn, MSAA, AJ Michaels, the Baltimore Orioles, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Monday evening. I can't say go Commanders because that doesn't feel right. I guess
Go
it's
Bengals because they haven't survived.
No, we're not. Definitely not saying that.
Well,
we're not doing that.
Yeah, they're not a
Duke.
threat.
Duke sucks.